just one of those dumb moments when you're like, I got my shit together. You know what I mean? It all falls apart real quick.
I know those. I've had those recently.
Hello, Michael Montgomery. How you doing, man?
I am well, brother. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, so first off, I got to address what's up with the peace sign made of guns, man?
Oh, that's a well. First off, disclaimer is those are all Replica Armory, which is it makes a very realistic looking. It was just kind of a thing that's it was kind of a play off the peace sign with guns and the whole thing that goes going on in the world right now. Our country's involvement in a war forever and multiple fronts. The war on drugs, the prison system. But I spelled peace, Piece, in the when I did the photo shoot.
Okay.
It was a photo shoot to draw awareness, and a play on words. Smart humor coupled with let's get you thinking, coupled with like peace spelled incorrectly, spelled like peace, like you'd say of carrying a piece. No matter what my history, you can't take the army man out of me and the kid that I always wanted to be Clint Eastwood. Every Halloween I was a cowboy till I was 12. I've found ways to involve myself in that legally now, paintballing, replica stuff, costumes. I even go so far as to buy stuff from what's called Blue Guns, which is a security training company that makes realistic blue or bright orange training weapons that weigh the same, look the same, feel the same for people in law enforcement and other in the military to train with, so they don't hurt themselves or injure themselves while doing it, and they grow comfortable. So I build costumes around this.
Okay.
I like playing dress up. I like playing army, hence the helmets and gladiator stuff. I'm gonna be Spartacus, I think, for Halloween.
That's awesome. I was a little nervous when you said the thing about the Centurion helmet and the loads of firearms around you. I was like, who is this guy I'm talking to? And honestly, your goofy fun pictures really put me at ease, and I was like, oh, this guy's having fun. This is rad.
In my sobriety and in the best ways in my recovery, the best ways in my freedom, to still have a pursuit of happiness legally, where one, no one gets hurt, two, there's no covert anything going on. I'm kind of into acting, writing, and I've been that way since I was a child. So especially in my desire to be involved in evolving as a human, it's still the kid inside me. I see your Spider-Man and your stuff behind you. Cosplay is fun for me, and doing it in the most realistic way. As a child, I was never a child satisfied with one of those CVS, before it was CVS, whatever, Long's Drugs, Bessie's, plastic costumes. I had to get into my mom's closet and find vests and scarves, and a realistic the flea market as a child was just a great joy for me. And I even as a child, I was advanced on this stuff. I would find for years living in Hawaii, there was a lot of Asian Filipino people who'd been in the military. So I literally knew I'm 12, whose uniforms are going to fit me. And I would find smaller people that had been in the service and buy their used army stuff at 10 with my allowance, so that I could build a costume that was realistic and looked the real gear, but minus the ability, so minus the real guns and stuff. So I like toys, and as an adult, I like them very realistic. And that's all that is. That's just me being a big kid, finding ways to do stuff legally. Like I'm not a firearm owner, can't be, but I can go play paintball.
That's what I was wondering. And that was my very first question on my list here was, is this guy really collecting guns in an SLE? What is going on? I don't know gun laws. I don't know gun culture all that well and stuff. So I wouldn't have been surprised if there was, because you wouldn't have shown me that if it was a real thing. So I was like, what is going on here?
If law enforcement ever came because some fucking, nowadays, like, as a kid, I used to be able to dress up in this stuff and go out and play with your BB guns and have fun. Now they go, oh my God, active shooter, and they call the cops,
Well,
And,
yeah, I mean, to be fair, it depends on, I think it depends on where you're at and who you are with that situation.
Giant ranch in the middle of nowhere where I can play army with toys. The kids love it, the neighbors.
Yeah. That's cool.
I like that stuff. If I go down to Burbank, man, the first place I go is Sergeant Supply. I can't drive by J&S Surplus without going in there and getting into the army stuff. So I'll have all the realistic gear because I like it. It's a joy of mine to go paintball or airsoft. I love that stuff. It's actually very expensive to do too. But it fulfills that childhood fun in me. It's something I can do legally.
Let's transition that thought right there.
Okay.
Because like you told me, you're out of prison for, as you said, probably the longest that you've been in several decades. And so I can totally understand getting back to the childlike nature and everything. How long do you think that you served in jails and prisons collectively? And we're talking what, like 34 years total, right? 17 to 51?
Yeah, started in the late 80s, around 87 in the county jails. Transitioned in 1990, June 6th, I think, I picked up my first CDC number. I was actively at Tracy, having been in the county jail for a year or so, fighting the case, and began my journey. And I'm still, until now, in and out of prison. The longest I stayed out in that entire, from the 80s till recently, was like 10 months, I think, one stretch of 10 months. I had intermittent, they call it doing life on the installment plan is how the fellas call it. It's like in 5 years, out 3 months. In 6 years, out 4 months. In 7 years, out. That's what I did. And it just became a giant blur. And when that out time means when I was using, I was on the run. I wasn't checking in with parole. I was hiding. I was scared. I was in a constant psychosis, and plus PTSD related. They got all these fancy terms now. Under heavy stress, under heavy fear, because I wasn't complying. I was hiding. I was not showing up. To this day, just calling in once a month or checking in, any kind of thing like that scares me. Like I suffer from trauma from it because I'm constantly of the mind I'm going back to jail. When the reality is no one puts me in jail but me. I never went to jail or prison for being innocent.
Yeah,
I was breaking the law or not complying to the terms. Since I've given up getting loaded. My sponsor reminds me, and these are guy convicts who've done a lot of time, like that's who my sponsor is they say, remember, Shag, you can still go to jail and be clean. The unforeseen, like fist fight in the parking lot because someone bumped into your car or, that kind of crap, I to watch out for because of, anger flashes or just, the whole prison mentality that got into my mind for so many years is a slow process to unravel. It's the emotional sobriety.
I just want to maybe funnel us back into that framework of what we were talking about before. So I've been on this new series of interviews inspired largely by the fires happening near our hometown. And I've always seen things about prisoner firefighters, incarcerated people working jobs like this. And I'll admit it was my bias of seeing Santa Cruz almost on fire and my family being all over that town right now that really, really got me like, what is up with this? Because they say there's a shortage this year. And you were recommended to me as someone that might have an insight about life in jail that maybe I didn't get from my other interviews yet. Probably being sarcastic with me, but also like, what the fuck's up with all the technical difficulties, which I totally understand.
Yeah, I was frustrated too. It's kind of cool because I couldn't get on. And then, you know, I had just done my 3rd Zoom meeting for the day. And yeah, I went to that emotional sobriety dry drunk where something affected me during the meeting and got me fucking agitated, which is real or not. You know, the girls wouldn't talk and there was only 12 people. And, you know, I have some really good friends that are in there too. And it could, you know, I don't know what it was. Maybe they just had a long day of meetings and were fucking over it and didn't want to, you know, and like happens. And it was, you know, they're like, dude, I don't feel like sharing right now. But of course, in me, it's all about me, you know? So I was agitated, you know, kind of frustrated trying to get on. And then afterwards, you're like, you were in your own, doing your own thing. And I thought, fucking, was that even the right guy I was talking to? You know, is this all some kind of weird?
You said that, and I was like, whoa, I guess that kind of shit does happen. I didn't even think about that, but I was like, yeah, that was me.
Because, you know, ultimately, there's certain private things in my life, as much as I'd like to, I love exposing them, sharing about them. Some of them are you know, they're called small permissions. I take small permissions in my freedom. Like I do that with some of the toys in my life. You know, because I do like to say cosplay and acting and pursuing my idea of happiness. The childhood in me is very much alive and well, and I don't always, you know, if I'm gonna dress up, I dress up very realistically. You know, I'm not dressing up in that plastic costume from CVS. I'm like wearing the real gear, and so
I can see that, in the background.
You know, the proof's in the pudding. I'm not doing anything wrong. There's nothing wrong with dressing up like Spider-Man or, you know, and so I found ways around this, brother. If I want to go to cosplay, I have the most realistic costume I've designed and put together with the real gear. And then I just buy a giant Spartan 300 sword that's foam. And I, you know, wear that because I can't walk through downtown Santa Cruz on Halloween night with fucking 2 samurai swords on my back, dressed up like a character out of a Netflix show, which I want to do. I have to make sure those are visibly foam, not toys, you know, until I'm at the place where I can do that. You
Definitely.
know, if I want to go do the Renaissance Fair, then I better, you know, I can dress up like, you know, a Scottish Highlander, but, you know, I'm not allowed to have the sword. So, you know, I do the other things, buy the foam one or have.
Honestly, even just being on parole doesn't keep you from having a sword in a lot of places. It's considered too long of a blade in a lot of places anyways, unless you're got a real reason and you do demonstration or something, you know, like of a certain martial art. But I want to talk to you about maybe a time when you had even less freedom than what you're talking about. Because what you're talking about is some decent freedom living down in Paso Robles and the countryside and all that. But I want to go back to when you were in prison a little bit.
Sure.
And I want to talk about something that doesn't get highlighted often by people that experience it. And it's working in prison. And just on the most basic level, how's it go getting a job in prison? Do you get told you have to get a job? Is it just for people that want it? Is it a privilege? Tell us about the basic part of that.
Okay, so there's many different facets to this. You know, depending on the level of care that you're needed to be involved in, depending on your work skills, depending on how they classify you in the beginning. So let's say you just hit San Quentin you're in reception center, you're just starting. It's the guys like me that have done a lot of time. They got the tattoos on their face. They know the cops that have been there that'll pick up a job like a tier tender or a kitchen worker where there's no pay, but you get out of that cell that you're in 23 hours a day. You get out of there early. You get to privileges to run amok a little bit, run the tiers, sweep, do a little bit of cleanup, get some extra food. All that stuff starts like for guys that are called regulars. That comes up, you know, in the reception center. Okay. From there, you get farmed out, so to speak, classified. They classified to your crime, to your point level. They have a point level that they put you. Level 1 is low, level 4 is high. So the penitentiary you go to is do your classification and your work skills. So if you're young and healthy, let's say, and you know, they do a whole screening. Teeth, your teeth got to be all right. Your heart, they EKGs, they do all that stuff. Check your blood, and then it's what you tell them too. You know, if you share information about yourself, you know, mental health stuff or something, you might get screened into a different level. And people become really adept at working the system to what they want to do. Because of course you're going to have a giant workforce in there, but you're going to have a ton of guys who don't want to work, and then you're going to have a ton of guys who want to work but might not be healthy enough to, let's say, go to fire camp. So, you know, as a young person, I spent 6 years in fire camp, 2 different terms and numbers. I was low level, and I was healthy. And I got farmed out to what the fire camp processing, the mainframe penitentiaries for training fire camp, which are Jamestown or Susanville. And those northern and southern prisons push you out into the fire camps. I believe there's 38. You know, I could be off on some numbers. It's been a while. But, you know, then you go into a training facility where eventually you come up to go through to get trained for a job, which is firefighting. And you're going to take all the same classes that a firefighter does: PFT first, physical fire training, physical fitness training, and then if you graduate from the physical fitness training, you're put into what's called FFT, firefighting training, and you take courses through CDF, which is now CAL FIRE, and you go out on the grade, it's called, with a CDF fire captain who's trained to handle inmates, and you go out and you work, and you learn the tools from chainsaw. Well, you don't really then. You work the Pulaski and the McLeod, the fire broom and the shovel. You learn how to sharpen those tools, how to get in hook line order, all that stuff. The prison firefighting was a big deal, man. It's like cream of the crop. Above that is called the firehouse, where you like live with actual trained firefighters, and you like 8 men, and you have better food, you have weights, you have all these different options, and they go out in the community even and the prisons and are a support fire team on a real fire truck, where they go out and they're trained in CPR, firefighting, structural firefighting, and they respond to emergency calls on the street, accidents nearby where the prisons are. Most big prisons have a firehouse, which is a really unique opportunity. I didn't get that one. But I did do the firefighting training, which was, you know, I fought 6 seasons, bro, at various fire camps in California, which was amazing. You know, it's definitely
it's definitely, sorry, no, I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay. It's definitely, I suffer from a run-on sentence. I can get going. I'm jacked up. I will spill the beans on, you know, this. I'm passionate about it because it needs to be talked about. You know, but there's the workforce in prison, all the work in a prison, aside from fire camps, is done by inmates. Like, you know, everything, kitchen, every kind of cleaning, every maintenance, cleaning up the yard, all the trash. The amount of trash that's cycled through every penitentiary is amazing. You know, that generated tons of trash. Because, you know, there's canteens and stores, and just it's a constant flow of stuff coming in and leaving the prison. It's actually a big hustle to work in the trash, because you get to. I worked in Folsom at a CCF, which is a community-run prison, cycling the trash of the Folsom community, which means like not only the prison's trash, but the trash from the surrounding community, which means, you know, depending on where you're at that place, there was a drug company that like manufactured in the Folsom, Sacramento area that we picked up their trash. They did all kinds of pills. So, I mean, you could imagine a bunch of convicts sorting through not only the liquor bottles that come half through drank during, aside from the baby diapers and the thrown away, I ate out of the Folsom trash stream with guys. Yeah. Burger King, fuck yeah, bro, give me a bite. You know, we cycled through the trash. You got guys looking for rings and purses, ripping. It's amazing, like the amount of trash, and it funnels the green chain, all the green trash to all the you know, bottled recycling. All gets recycled, and we dig through it. And you know, in come the pills that you got, the additives getting clean. Goes, these Oxycontins, throw them away, mom. They throw them away. You know, that comes through that waste stream. So it was an amazing place to work in addiction at the time, within a prison. A lot of hustle, a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Wet stock, knife, everything goes through a trash, you know, the trash. But so every prison has an amazing, there's clerks, like a big job is clerks, guys that do all the typing. Like, the PIA is really big. And that's a giant one at the major prisons. I worked in Folsom's PIA, which was their prison industries. And what that is everything. They make the clothes, the boots, the shirts. Worked in toner. I worked in metal fab. They build all the desks. They build all the stuff for like CHP, like every roll cage, every like cages that are put in the prisons around for inmates to sit in and wait while they're transported from A to B. They're all done in metal fab, like for across California prisons. Like inmates are building this stuff. They're great welders, great auto mechanics. I worked in toner, refurnishing toner cartridges for printers, in which we sent them out, you know, and you make a little more money in PIA. And it's a highly valued, sought after job, is working in prison industries, because it's regular work. You get a better paycheck. There's guys making $200-300 a month, $400 a month, which is, you can only spend $225 a month at canteen. So you're able to do your thing.
Actually save a little money at that point, and maybe have a little baseline if they get out, right?
Exactly. You can, and guys, it's weird out. Like, convicts are very frugal. We get really good at like making a dime last a long time. Like, it's amazing, like the skills I learned about money, just from living off so little. But it's such a contradiction then to get out and realize that, like, you know, things cost more out here. So I used to be able to learn how to manage $100 a month every month in prison. You can't live on $100 out here. That's just not feasible. So there's a learning curve that goes with it, you know. And if you work in prison, you can sustain, you know, but most of the jobs are 8 cents an hour or something, or less, you know. Firefighting, like, you get your grade pay for working, and then you get $1 an hour. It was when I fought fires. And that depends on how long you're out. Like, you get from the minute you get the call and suit up and get on that bus and go, that CVC, crew vehicle carrier, you're on the clock until you're back in that camp. And so in fighting fires, you have the potential to make a few $1,000, depending on the fire season, depending on how much it burns.
Yeah.
You know?
So you mentioned something right at the beginning about it depends on maybe what you're able to tell them, either truthfully or you know, about job skills.
Yeah.
But what kind of, on the other side of that, what kind of skills do you see them trying to help people develop? Say it's someone that maybe had a really rough childhood, didn't grow up in a good area, they don't have a lot of the skills. Are they just saying, oh, we're going to give you the crappiest job and they're stuck there? Or are there good programs that are accessible for building skills when they're in jail, or when you were in jail?
Well, I mean, they added, when I was going to prison for the most amount of my time, it was called CDC, California Department of Corrections. Since they've added an R to the end, which is California Departments of Corrections and Rehabilitation. So ultimately, it's like the desire you got your old school guys that are hardliners, like that are like, fuck these guys, pay. And I'm kind of like that in a sense. I'm a do the crime, do your time kind of guy. I really feel that. Like, I've spoke to law enforcement, been invited to share my experience because my county, Santa Cruz, wants us to, I'm representing it as a guy who had a lifetime career of prison, a career criminal, and a validated gang member, um, a lifer on the installment plan who they call it aging out. I kind of aged out, and like the fear of prison got slapped into me. Like I didn't want to get any. I'm 51. I don't want to get any older in there. Every gnarly gang member from like gnarly prison gangs that I know that's doing a life sentence would tell me, Shag, one that you have the opportunity to stay in here if you want, ever enjoying our cause, and you do that through violence, but we'd rather see it get out and stay out. So, I got to a point where like I was like ready to stay out, and what that meant for me is no more dope and no more dope dealing for one. But the whole idea in rehabilitation now, from what I've seen and the opportunities that came up in my county of Santa Cruz, were like there's been changes in the idea of recovery and rehabilitation. Thank God. I finally grabbed onto that straw that was being dangled. Like, dude, do you want to take this opportunity to have us pay for you to go into these programs? They started years ago a thing called SAP, Substance Abuse Program, at Corcoran and now various prisons. And I got involved in that, in which I had the opportunity to go to classes about job skills, about filling out resumes, about being accountable, about and through that program was funneled into the opportunity to go to like Santa Cruz Residential or New Life Center, have it paid for, have my ID before I got out, get all these basic life skills, because a lot of us don't have those. I'd never had a bank account before. I had a job in the 80s in high school. Like, I mean, working at the Broken Egg, where my manager was a coke dealer. I got turned out on dope at working at the job that my parents suggested I get, while I was, at a place. My dad's football players from Cabrillo ran it, and he knew the owner, but the managers were coke dealers, and I was paid in cocaine while I signed my check over. At the time, it was like $3.95 an hour in the 80s, $4.25. He goes, well, you owe me $125 for coke this week, Mike, and but your checks for $84. Why don't you just sign that over and we'll continue this? That was my original, before I started going to prison, work experience in drug. And from there became a whole prison work experience, which was great. But here's the funny thing about that. I could fight fires for 5 years, 4 years, 3 years in prison. But when I get out, I'm telling you, the last thing guys who getting out of prison want to do is, 90% of us, we're suffering a little PTSD. We're suffering a little trauma. If we're active in our addiction still, the last thing I want to do is get out and get a job. Even if I had skills, I was like, dude, I want to go get loaded. I want to go to 26th Avenue on the beach and hang out. I want to go to, I'm going to go get laid. I don't want to, I'm not going to work right now. I need a vacation. I just worked in prison,
Yeah.
Worked ass off.
Did you find more satisfaction with certain jobs when you were in there? It doesn't necessarily have to be firefighting. Pick anyone that you felt really satisfied with it. Would it have made a difference if that employer or a company running the same business said, hey, we actually will funnel you with an opportunity with this industry or this company coming out? Would that have made a difference, or did that ever happen?
I'm going to tell you right now, whether you want to call it privilege, whether you want to call it opportunities, I, as a human being, have always had opportunities. And I chose to not pursue them because my pursuit was getting loaded. Bottom line, to go along something that we understand, radio, press, and films, we don't do that. Until I got involved in a 12-step program and decided I wanted to change, there wasn't anything, dude. I had, let me tell you briefly, my father was a football coach at Cabrillo College, played professional football in Canada, built their own home. My mom taught macrame. My uncle growing up was the head coach of basketball at Stanford, Mike Montgomery, then the Warriors, and then Cal. My grandfather was a Hall of Famer football player at UCLA who was the athletic director at Long Beach State. My uncle Dick was they're all PhDs, with a PhD in physical fitness, who was the women's volleyball coach at USC and San Jose State. I mean, talking Hall of Famers, my childhood neighbor was Trent Dilfer, who grew up with, won a Super Bowl ring out of Santa Cruz, playing for, he retired from the 49ers, was a quarterback. I had opportunities in life. Should I chose to, any guy getting out of prison, I know dudes who grew up in dirt poor, broken home, abusive families, who got out of prison, said I'd had enough, didn't get loaded, got a job at a gas station and made it happen. I know a lot of my homeboys that are done with that lifestyle, that have been to prison, work in the unions. The unions hire felons. They work in different unions, bro, and they make good money. And they have provide for themselves and their families. But the bottom line, honestly, they're all clean. They're all involved in the program, man, one sort of another.
My question then would be, any of those guys, have you ever had any friends say, hey, I either got trained in this industry in jail, or I was working for this company that partnered with the prisons, and that company or that specific industry welcomed me in, at least with an opportunity, not a guarantee necessarily, but an opportunity to continue that path when they came out, so that they had a foothold and a path that kept them steady?
Well, for sure. Like I want to be, you know, it's so important to me to be transparent, speak my truth with you, not only because that's who I am and choose to live like now, but to support your podcast, to support the honest sincerity and the integrity of what you're trying to do. So I'm going to have to say, like, to speak, to give you like what I know, and I don't know everything. I know guys who did great work in prison who, like, maybe their boss, you know, in PIA said, dude, you know, on the under. I know a guy who runs a company, you're parole into Sacramento. He's a welder. Give him a call. Like, you know, there is opportunities for any man, race, creed, or religion, shape, or size in our country, thank God, for people that want to do the right thing, man. I know that. I know that, you know, that's the big thing about coming out and going into some sort of, which they're pushing in the system a lot, is like transferring into recovery homes or sober living environments that have that stuff set up. Santa Cruz has got a lot through Emmeline Street and a lot of opportunity for people to pursue their desires and happiness, should they care to. I know that I finally did at this age and where I'm at right now, because I took the opportunities of the programs in Santa Cruz County Jail, all right, that were provided by cops I'm no longer afraid of, classification officers I'm no longer afraid of, cops I grew up and went to high school with that work in the system, who know that I'm doing the right thing. Like, you know, so there is that happens. As there's also the good old boy program, you know, who you know, man, who you know. I have a family that knows a lot of people. I had a lot of opportunities, man. And, you know, any man and woman gets by if they're willing to do work and they show up. And if it doesn't matter if you start at 7-Eleven on the midnight shift and then you own the thing in 10 years. I know that that's available to people, should you put in it. It's weird for me to talk about work history because I spent so many years only working in prison, you know, and if I was in a security housing unit, I didn't work at all. That's a shoe.
Some of that work being 8 cents an hour, you said, and some of it almost like not even paying in a noticeable way if you're doing cooking or sweeping floors in jail, things like that. What did you see? Was it discouraging for someone to see maybe themselves working for a private company that sometimes is making things and making a profit off of them? And does that create less of an incentive to work within the system when they get out? Or would it maybe make people more motivated, like you seem to be on that end of being like, I'm going to prove everything wrong?
You know, it's weird because I chose from working in PIA because at the time what they were doing was taxing me 55% of anything I made because of restitution. It's tax, for fighting the case and whatever. Like I owed, like, so if I made $80 a month, I was really getting 34 or something, and that used to upset me a little bit. There's such a different thinking process between lifers who are in prison forever and like their career is like that job in PIA. Their career, like I chose to take a job as a tier tender, pushing the broom and pushing other people's dough over PIA after a while. One, I got to sleep in more. Two, I got to communicate with people locked in these cells at different hours of the day. I got to shower regularly when I wanted to. It allowed my cell to be unlocked so I can run amok and from tier to tier, taking kites, which are notes, delivering information, making phone calls for people, hustling basically. Like I chose that in the system before because it allowed me free ranging on getting loaded in the system, which is a big deal for a lot of us in escaping. I didn't like, I've always intuitively felt within myself, if I cleaned up my act, the sky's the limit anyhow. So, it's like, I got a kind of distorted view on working because the only work I did was in prison. And, there were times when I was depressed or involved in mental health where I didn't want to work at all. Like I wanted to sleep, man. Or I wanted to, do the least amount possible, and I did I've done almost every job you can think of over that 30-year span of in and out of prison. There's not a whole lot of jobs that I haven't done. I feel like I'm answering your questions, not answering them. Like I'm
No,
not.
you're answering them. You're doing great, man. You're also adding a lot of stuff, and I have no problem. We both suffer from the same thing. It's good practice in making myself let you flow through however your answer is coming out. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
You get $80 a month. How many hours do you think you were working? A full-time job's 170 hours a month. How many hours do you think you were working for $80?
About a week, literally in a week. Like PIA was 4 days a week, Monday through Friday, and like they key your door at 4:30 in the morning. You hear them like this. That was at Folsom, which is a building built over a building, very old and archaic. And you can hear the cops and their keys, ching, ching, because it's bars. There's 13 bars in it, like little cell, and cages. So if you picture if you looked at the catwalk for the guards with the guns are watching, it's like all these little tiny apartments, almost like Hollywood squares, 50 of them in a row. 5 stories worth of men in their little cubicles starting their day. The youngsters tend to sleep in more. The older lifers get up at the crack. They're up making their coffee at 4:30. Their TV's on in the news, and like by 6, we're going to work. And all this is a process. There's a gnarly security process. So we're walking to breakfast. We're eating and then locked back in our cells for about 10 minutes before unlock, 5th tier. And then we're coming down these stairwells back to go down to the work, which is on this big hill above the prison, the industries. And then you have to go through checkpoints as you go because you can't be taking stuff in or out of the place. I mean, we're working guys with rebar and steel and grinding tools and weapon stock. Just the amazing lenser. There was the Braille. They wrote the books for Braille for like local Braille, not even local, but like statewide Braille. There was people that did the Braille typing. There was guys that did lens crafting through thousands of pairs of Bonnaroos, the hustle. Their sunglasses, reading glasses, sunglasses would be sent daily through that prison, in which these guys refurnished glasses to be sent back to the community. And like a big hustle was stealing, like, you're like, oh, these are Pierre Cardin. Like every lifer on the yard had like, these are Gucci, you know, and they were real.
Yeah.
Like,
but then look at that. Look at that. You're making $80 a month. How many hours do you think you're working on those 4 days?
So, like you would work like an at least an 8-hour day. Like, so you're going up on the hill at 6 in the morning, and then it's almost like having a time card. They punch a time card for you as you go.
And we don't have a country where the government makes glasses. We don't even have a country where the government takes care of eye health care in many cases. So that means that you were doing that for private companies, correct?
Oh, we were the amount of money generated. Like, I used to get tripped out like on the amount of cut what's it called? Like, it's a metal not tin, but whatever, aluminum recycling, like steel and aluminum that would be cut because they would make all this stuff, metal fab, dude. And the amount of resources being thrown away. License plates. I worked in license plates. I made every freaking license plate in California for a while. I made a whole series. So a whole series would be on these pallets, and it's like you'd see the tab, and inmate workforce did it all day at let's say, you know, $1 a day. Guys are making whatever, just incredibly low amount of money. 8 hours a day running all the machinery, just massive machinery, from rolls of what the license plates are made out of, stamped. I used to have to like use acetone and denatured alcohol to check the plate and rub any little impurity and send it off. They get cooked and baked, and they get stacked and packed and labeled. The whole series, motorcycle ones, personalized ones, blah blah blah. Well, I'd go out back on the end, and there'd be this whole thing's wrapped up on a crate of all these license plates, a series of license plates, and there'd be a price tag on there, $82,000. You know, someone for the day's work. Someone was paying that cash, and then the overflow of recycled metals from that cut off slag that's left over, all thrown away, it's getting picked up by another company to be taken out of the prison in trucks and recycled. You know, and which is big money for someone, dude. Someone's making a killing, you know, of copper and recycled metal and steels and aluminum it was insanity. I used to go, wow, this is like, you know, it's almost too big to comprehend. If you crunch the numbers on that stuff, you'd go, whoa, some lobbyists, guys, you know.
And at the same time, they're not even really paying you more than, I mean, if you're working 32 hours a week, that's 100 and something hours for $80, right? And someone the company is making that money, right?
Someone is making what is the word? I know what the word is. I got little brain fart. It's not altruism. It's the bit, you know, it's that when you hire within the family and hire, like, so you got cops working. Nepotism. Thank you. Nepotism is alive and well in that system. I'm going to tell you that from experience. Not only on both sides of the fence, convicts keep becoming convicts within their family, and gang members keep becoming gay, but cops becoming cops. But the amount of workforce that, like, so-and-so's a lieutenant, his brother is the head of the kitchen, which is a free staff through the state. All of them are just reaping the benefits in the hours that are amazing. A lot of money. These dudes own nice homes and stuff, working, spending all day like managing inmates. And then their sister works in medical, and their brother helps run PIA up on the hill. He used to be a CDC officer. That stuff's amazing. That goes on within that system. It's a closely knit family of you know, deep within the realms of nepotism. To find like the fine line.
So you're kind of saying that probably often connects to the companies outside that are making money off it and who gets those contracts, correct?
Guaranteed. I remember being a youngster at fire camp, and like, we had a lieutenant or a captain. Let's see, he was the head of the fire camp, and Flavio, man, the dude could barely speak English. I used to be like, whoa, heavy, you know, this guy has a, I used to think cartel in my mind. He had the glasses and the weird rings, and he was like high up the chain. He ran the camp, and like the older guys that were my age now, who are deep off in the system, would be like, yeah, it's weird. His brother-in-law owns the meat company that comes and sells the meat, you know, and you're like, it's a definitely like any other big business. It's a good old boys club for sure. And not like good old boys in the racial tone of white style. It's like you go into the Bay Area and all the cops, like, it's very ethnically inclined, and the gay community is heavily involved in this, in the Department of Corrections. Like, there's a lot of cops that are, I mean, I don't want to go there to, like, you could just tell them the shiny boots and the strange jack boots and the uniform that just screams bondage is there. But also, like, there's cops that work in there, like their cousins are in the prison and they're talking to you, watch them interact. And like, it's just, it depends on, it's like really weird. I got involved in it was called, CCA, Correctional Corporation of America. It's where they farmed us out from California during the, like, mid 2005, 6, 7. They had a contract with this countrywide prison system that was privateered prisons, and they flew us. I flew out of from Solano with a bunch of guys from Folsom and Solano, and they flew us to Oklahoma, where they housed us in these brand new prisons built by CCA. They were privatized. Let's say it cost $48 a day to house a California inmate. I think it's more than that. I'm just throwing a number out there. It was like $16 a day to house us in Oklahoma, and was a trip. That was a whole big business eye opener. Being farmed out from California, and guys tried to fight this to claw and teeth to not go. They would throw you in the hole. You went zip tied or not, man. They sent us. And that was a clusterfuck if I've ever been involved in one. I almost came up missing involved in that one. That was you take 100 guys from 10 different prisons and throw them in a new prison. Every one of those airplane flights has 5 different shot callers, 40 different gang members, a bunch of guys that wanted to have power in this prison that now get the chance. This was amazingly violent, and there was no working there. There was nothing. There was nothing to do but be in Oklahoma and Mississippi too, where I was at for 7 years, man. Way across the country, housed from California in Mississippi, Tutwiler, Mississippi, man, where every cop was black there because they hired from that. They pulled all the people from that zone. When I was in Oklahoma, it was all gnarly rednecks and some mixed Native Americans. Oklahoma. They pull from that zone, these private prisons, and they're making $8 an hour, $8.50 an hour as officers. There's no gunners. It was a fucking free for all, dude, of guys who were anyone that wasn't doing a life sentence. It was gnarly, dude. Guys who've been down 20 years already at one prison were now uprooted, sent to Mississippi to like create. It was a phenomenon that was insane, and no jobs.
So that was basically farming you out to a corporation that didn't follow through on their part of the bargain and have jobs for you to do when you got over there?
No jobs, because they put some guys to work in the kitchen, but we like had all day long. They created their own thing. Like, they created their own substance abuse classes and these were like where it was super hot, Oklahoma and Mississippi. It was super humid, super hot. Everything they gave us was brand new. The cells were super nice. The cages were nice. They gave us great cages. It was awesome. Great cages with different kind of little lockers and different little shelving. Whoa, they got a place for your TV right here. That's fucking rad. And they had more TV channels available, which was cool. They played like 4 movies a week for you instead of 2. And then they gave
farmed out to this place then. What was the purpose of sending you guys over there? I thought
we were
for some
overcrowded in California. The California system was overcrowded. They had started to figure out ways to alleviate the stress loads.
Okay, so it was for that purpose. It wasn't to farm you out for working for a corporation.
No. and then they farmed us out to the cheapest, like, well, these guys will do it for $16 an hour. Like this CCA, if you look at they've been sued, and there's some gnarly stuff that happened within that whole realm of legality that happened, where like you're sentenced in California and now you're being sent to Mississippi with different health care, with cops that aren't trained to be cops, with no gunners to protect you if something violence happens. Pow, everything's done. With guys, people that didn't have a clear understanding of how the Title 15 works, like, which is the rule book. So you got, let's say in Mississippi, man, it became the brothers loved it out there because all of the cops worked there were like impoverished, from the same community they are. And we were like movie stars. The Crips and Bloods and 415s and these guys from different places like had it good. They were turning the cops over into like there was, sexual activity, phones, drugs, like heavy amount of like corruption involved, because these were like trained, pulled out of the welfare department, first job, to work in a prison with sophisticated California inmates who had nothing better to do all day than try and get what they wanted. Like,
and also not paying these cops enough where they have an incentive to maybe not do those things.
Well, why not? It was great. Like, it was cool. Like, it was like, what way do you look at it? Was it cool? Like, for someone who'd spent their whole life impoverished in Tutwiler, Mississippi, to now like meet a gnarly gang member who's like high up the chain as a Crip, man, and Watts, who's doing fucking 30 years and like good looking and strong and like got money coming in, and like, dude, it was heavy. It was a heavy experience. And then it was different. It was more catered to the white guys in Oklahoma because all the cops were like straight rednecks out of the military. They were just trying to do their thing after the military. It was a very interesting meshing of humanity. And because we're all going to do what we got to do. Like, people are going to try and take advantage of the system. Just like if I don't want to work in PIA, I'm going to fucking bounce out of that, talk to the cop I know is going to go, let's just get you over here, sleep in the tier where I can sleep in all day, shower when I want, push the broom, pass messages, hand one homemade outfit from a pen and a needle sent in, and from cell to cell all day, and that would be my hustle and job, which to me was better than $80 a month.
Yeah, going back to that. So when you got back from Oklahoma and Mississippi and these places, you had jobs in between in the California prison system. Back to the firefighting thing, what's some of the gnarliest things that you dealt with as a firefighter when you were living at the fire camps, real trained firefighters while serving time?
Running a chainsaw for 3 days straight, with a fire captain and 17 other men, man, and like cutting line, like, and seeing the YA guys, like the youth authority kids cutting freeways, they call it, to bare mineral soil that were just like, some of the best stuff actually was in the off season. Like, firefighting's heavy. You got to be in shape. It's gnarly. It's hot. It's dirty. And you're out there, with a potential to burn. Some of the coolest stuff was like getting flown in helitax in Hueys coming in or out of a fire line on a helicopter. That was like just cool. Truly the best, like, amazing spiritual stuff that happened during those times was in the off season. Like, I grew up surfing and in the surf community and was a water polo player in college and blah, blah, blah. Like, the ocean's been a part of my life. I spent every summer till I was 17 on Kauai in Honolulu Bay. I paddled out with your canoe for Honolulu Civic Canoe Club in the state race every year, qualified, blah, blah, with like gnarly dudes, surfers, athletes. Laird Hamilton was my next door neighbor when I'd spend time in Hawaii. Like, I was around people that were like it. So like, when I got into prison was the first time in my life as a youngster I ever lived away from the ocean. So my first job on the grade in the off season, because you're not only a firefighter, what you are is you're a trained conservationist. You're at the Sierra Conservation Center. You know, that's what Jamestown is. So it's a conservation center. So what we do in the off season is we work in all the state parks in that surrounding area that your camp's at. Like, so I was at Gavilan for a number of years, Camp 38 in front of Soledad. So we naturally worked everywhere from the Gloria mountain range, this I worked in what's it called? You know, but I worked in Big Sur. The first 6 months, I was on the bus every day from that camp over through Salinas, Monterey, Big Sur, going to Pfeiffer and Andrew Malera. So like the biggest, like coolest stuff was like all of a sudden I was in prison back in the Redwoods. I actually got to body surf in prison in my state boxers in front of a bunch of Crips and Bloods and Northerns and Southern gangbangers. Go, dude, at the Big Sur river mouth with my captain going, whoa, you know, trusted me. I got to get barreled while in prison. I got to ride the bucking horses that were at our camp we worked at rodeos. I worked at air shows. But working in the state parks in the off season, like doing conservation in Pfeiffer, dude, I mean, come on, you're in prison and I'm like in the Redwoods and in the Andrew Malera river mouth. That kind of shit was the most, going to Arroyo Seco to work and working up in Arroyo Seco and jumping off my captain in his skivvies and his little, Menin, boxer briefs, they were like Speedos, and we're in our state boxers and we're all diving off the cliffs, man. And that kind of shit was like truly the amazing experience. There's something bitching about fighting fires with 17 other dudes. Like, and I'm talking like, I've gone to jails and prisons. I'm in LA County all of a sudden and in jail. And there's this guy who was my saw swamper, black guy named, I can't remember his name. He was a Crip, man. From Pomona, and we're in the holding tanks, and he's in his clothes, pee everything, pirate's hat, Pomona, and he's like, Shaggy, dude. It's like 20 years later, I'm running into a guy that was a gang member from Pomona, who was my saw swamper. I ran the saw. I taught him how to use a saw. He grew up in Pomona. He'd never seen a chainsaw in his life. He's at fire camp, great hiker, super fun dude, had mitts on him. Great dude. Like I made lasting relationships with guys from all walks of life, all different sizes, and like got to do something like fight a fire with them, staging at a fire and getting ready to go out there. We 30 crews in a row, 17 guys on each crew, tooled up, chaps on, fire gear, Nomax, you know.
So you talk a lot about the very detailed training you guys got as firefighters. You're pointing out another point, which is that these incarcerated people don't just work these jobs when fires are burning. The state of California kind of fills in holes in their budget by having you guys do this stuff year round. And whether or not you enjoyed some aspects of that, there's a larger thing going on there that we as Californians out here, free people like myself, our system isn't funding those programs. And we're filling that hole with people that are somewhat without the choice to work in those jobs. Wouldn't you support making those people qualified to hold those jobs outside, even if it meant that we had to pay them to do that job? Because they're gives them something to do when they get out, right?
Sure. Even if it's like, I tell you what, if I could have transitioned before into like a prison that wasn't a prison, so to speak. Like it was housing. Instead of a cell, you had a room like this size, right? You got to put your own stuff on the wall. And you had, my job was to do what we did in there, dig post holes and string barbed wire along 101, which I did from Soledad to King City, man. Like, you know, and get paid minimum wage or $12 an hour, man. Talk about like, that would have been great. I guarantee you, there's thousands of guys that would benefit from that, would love to go do that, you know, that don't have the opportunities I had as a privileged guy in America, you know, with my family. That would have been great to cycle into that. I mean, I just got done talking with like my homeboys that have been to prison, that live in Santa Cruz, that live in the mountains. We all were firefighters in prison. And we're all a little older and like we all have the same feelings of like, dude, we could have done like a lot more. Like the last thing CDF or CAL FIRE wants is a Yahoo like me coming from out of town to go up there with a shovel. But if I lived in that environment and it happens, I do have the training. A lot of you could have like a volunteer fire department of guys that have been through my training that are on call. You get a radio, you have a radio, a scanner, you know, your tools in your truck, and who could be there in a heartbeat. You would gladly do that. I guarantee you it would help with the recidivism rate if they had that opportunity for a lot of guys. Because there's a lot of young men, bro, in prison that grew up impoverished, in welfare, in gang cities, in fucking projects, that would love a way out, that don't have the same opportunities I have. I guarantee there's a lot of them that are studs that would go do something like that. And
I almost think it makes it worse, their sourness towards the system. People make their own choices, yes, but there are a lot of people that have legitimate gripes, like you're saying, with the way that they are put in a certain position to begin with. Do you think it makes it even worse when they get the taste of doing that type of work and then they're not even given, not even like welcomed in, but they're not even given it as like a possibility to go do that work when they come out with a lot of these jobs?
Well, I believe it's a massive hoodwink put on by something. I don't like to say who, the government, mighty whitey, the fucking powers that be. There's some kind of weird hoodwink that goes on with all this stuff. That's like the veil of secrecy and truth that's not really exposed. And I don't know how to, when I was younger, I used to feel more inept, like not inept, but more equipped, so to speak, to like discover what that was. I know that, let me tell you something. I got out with this kid once named Scooby. I'm Shaggy. It was funny. And we got paroled from San Quentin. And I sat in the holding cage putting on my new clothes that my mom had sent me. And his dad came to say goodbye to him. His dad was a lifer. I lived with his dad in North Block. And his dad came down to say goodbye to his son, who was paroling to Oakland, okay? And they gave us our money right then, and I had these new clothes, and he didn't have, like his dad brought like old pair of sweats down and said, man, take these sweats out, man. And, you know, we got on a bus together, and we left San Quentin. I watched him say goodbye to his dad, who was doing a life sentence. It was like he had to be in prison to spend some time with his dad. This kid was like 19 or 20. And we got on BART at some point, and I was like, Scooby, man, he goes, I got $60. It says you're gonna take me into your project and get some crack for me, bro. Okay, please. This is what I want to do, man. He's like, Shaggy, man, no, man, that ain't cool, man. You ain't in it. But I talked him into it, and we walked in the sunlight into this project in Oakland, man. And I remember it had bars around it that curled inside, almost to keep people in. And there was these massive projects, never really been in. I take that back. I hustled the streets of San Francisco as a young straight boy gone bad. That's a whole nother podcast we could do. But, you know, as a male hustler. But I went into this project and with him, safe. And I remember like these buildings of cement with like laundry was everywhere. From the minute we stepped in there was people yelling out, Scooby, what's up, man? Welcome home. Hey, brother. Little kids came running up to the laundry and they were happy to see him. And we wove our way through. And this kid was welcomed in his community and loved. And like, I got my crack, got back on BART, Fremont, wherever, took, you know, smoking, taking hits in bathrooms along the way, got into Santa Cruz, and no one said hi to me. I didn't have any family waiting to pick me up. I had all these opportunities, but I didn't have community, man. I didn't have any of that. I was just another lost boy coming home to Santa Cruz to get high with a gang of opportunities and no love that I was ready for. And this kid, Scooby, man, saying goodbye to his dad, who was a lifer at San Quentin, wearing his dad's worn out clothes, got nothing but love when he came into his home. And that hit me like it was a real powerful experience in this life, you know. And my pursuit of happiness at the time was very different. You know, I don't know if that kid Scooby had the same opportunities I did. I don't know. I don't know if he has to go back to San Quentin to see his dad. I know that I had to go back to prison a whole lot of times to see people I really love that are never getting out. And a lot of those guys go to work every single day. They go to work in PIA. They save their money. Some of them are Green Beret. Like I was with a like Navy SEAL, like gnarly decorated veterans that are lifers. You know, smoked one dude on a motorcycle in the 70s after, you know, Vietnam, and like still there. You know, one mistake. Going to work every day, taking their jobs really seriously, doing hardcore quality work that they would get paid 120 bucks an hour, 80 bucks an hour doing for some massive contractor out here on the streets. And there's plugging away. I know. I don't want to work right now. I'm 51. I'm working on my recovery on a daily basis. I'm provided with the ability not to work because, like, I had a family. Like, I got involved with the, you know, what happens when people die. Things called the trust. And I don't know how they found it in their heart to put me involved in it, because you know, the trust in one hand to me means Shag's great crack run in the other one. That's what the trust means to me. Unless I'm in this cycle I'm in right now, which is like trying to figure out where my work is, bro. My work is with human beings. My work maybe someday could be is in writing, which I do well and won awards for. My work is in poetry and dance. My work is in our community, brother, doing this kind of shit. Like, this is a great work opportunity for me to give you my, like, whatever it is I got, you know. You know, that's what I'm working on, dude. I'm burnt out on like I work on this property and dig post holes, and like it's like a you know, a metaphor for my life. The broken fence poles that are on this property. We had a dog get out, got hit by a car. I got to tend to the broken fence poles in my life right now, so that I can continue a pursuit and happiness that allows me to live by some kind of healthy means, man, and puts food on the table. You know, I am blessed to be fortunate, man, in that I live with people and are also in some form of spiritual recovery that are kind and retired from Superior Court. You know, I live with someone I live in this home I'm in. The person's retired from Superior Court, man, and they're involved in some form of recovery, man, and a super excellent human being, which provides me with the means to be able to kind of live right now and not have to, with not a very clear definition of the things you guys understand, which is bills. You know, I got a cell phone bill, you know, my pursuit of costumes, and you know, I couldn't pass this thing up. This is a real gladiator helmet from the used in the Colosseum in Rome. You know, I mean, I had to have it. You know, which then goes to this. I had to have the sword that goes with it. You know, I have to have, you know, my pursuit is like distorted and childlike, and I live in somewhat of a fantasy world. So I feel kind of weird about talking about work and stuff because I don't really know what that is. I have a distorted understanding of what that is.
But you obviously, I mean, and you said it, you do understand the struggle of like someone who might have that community but not the opportunities. And you also admitted that maybe that time that you came over to Santa Cruz and no one welcomed you, just like many of us have experienced, maybe the people you knew were a little tired of you at that moment and they came back later on. But put yourself in the shoes of someone that maybe doesn't have any financial support from family, maybe doesn't even have a couch to crash on, because someone else is already crashing on that couch, and look at the struggle of that compared to working for that company that was making $82,000 on scrap metal a day, and you guys saw those numbers. What do you see as ways of fixing that system for people in that situation?
Man, I wish I had those kind of answers for you.
Maybe just your opinion, any shot in the dark. I mean, just because you lived in that system and you knew so many people caught up in that system, I'm curious what your feeling even is on it.
Well, I know that it's like when that system spits you back out, when you've earned that release date and your time is up and it's time to go, there has to be a system in place that like helps you, funnels you back to the world, because it's kind of, in a way, since most of us are addicts and alcoholics that are going through that experience, then the PTSD, the rage, the social distancing that happens from living in a prison for so long and then coming out to the world. You're done next Tuesday. Thanks for your service. See you later. You know, there has to be, and I'm not talking just like call this number and you'll fucking report to your parole officer. Here's $200. It's been $200 since I started it in the 80s. You know, there's your $200, pal. You know, there has to be like, it's almost like a forced march. There has to be a little bit of a forced march. I think they do it for the women a lot more. I know Treasure Island and stuff, they have these pre-release programs that they're funneling the women to. The women, as they should, always get a little bit, there's less of a population. They get a better, they have a little more funneling of structure after the prisons, because I think it's set up in a way to continue us to go back, you know, because there's a constant supply needed of human bodies that are ready, that need to be fulfilling those roles of the workforce of prisons. It's big fucking money, dude. So, you know, I just know that, like, you know, that you can't go from fucking living in prison for so many years into like all of a sudden you got to pay rent somewhere and like you've got $200 and that's what you got going. And because the first inclination for any of us is I need a fucking vacation. Because not only did I work in prison, I was fucking living in a constant stress of violence and fucking abuse and fucking control beyond my own that is so stressful that if you've got any kind of addiction thing going, the first thing I want to do is fucking buy a pack of smokes, have a drink, go to that local place, have my hand out because the fellas say, good job, bro, you didn't tell us, here's your shit, and start my whole process again, which has nothing to do with work. And that's, you know, and become, so to say, now the king of Tent City. You know, that's what it became. I had a very good experience in Tent City this time. First time ever. It was like fucking an unreal experience, right out in the courthouse backyard with the same people that sent us to prison walking by and waving while we're in tents. And you heard about the sex in Tent City, right? It was intense, you know? No, it was intense, you know? But yeah, it was like a fucking Grateful Dead concert, 24/7, sanctioned by our county to get loaded in and sit on the property and do, like, that's what I came home to last time. Tent City, bro. And guess who was in Tent City? This was a big part of what it changed my life. My friends' kids were in Tent City because I'm 51. You know, it wasn't like me and the homeboys. It was my friends' kids. It was me and my friends' kids in Tent City with needles in their arms. What a gnarly one that was. You know? Wow, I used to know your parents are my friends. I watched you born. You're fucking what? Now look at you, Jesus Christ. And that was my perpetual job now, was to supply drugs to my friends' kids, not the coach of the football team or the basketball team. I was now the drug dealer to my friends' kids, not what I've ever perceived I was going to be in the workforce. That changed me and got me where I'm at today, you know? Because that's what I came home to. That was the happening spot. It was no longer the pro surfer's house like it was when we were younger. It was now Tent City. I was like, that was where it was at. Dude, fucking, I know I just grasped on to our community stuff that they had going on in our county jail, which was like, these are the forms of opportunities you have should you care to pursue them. And Santa Cruz County has some, and I grabbed onto those fucking things, man, and it saved my life.
Also hitting on another point, which is really interesting because as a hobby, I like to watch those videos about how everyone's leaving California and everyone's tired of California and all these drug rehab programs, they just endorse bad behavior. But I've seen that growing up, and now I live in LA right now. I go to Santa Cruz and visit all the time, but they get a lot of hate from people that want to hate on homeless people and other things for trying to help people in those ways. But then I talk to people in other areas like Maryland and fucking Ohio and shit, and they don't have that. And those people really do end up in prison like that, like again. And you're saying that you really feel like those programs do help, even if it's, I'll admit it's hard to record what percentage of people it works for, right?
It's very small, I think. I really do. It's like it's a weirdo. I'm a traditionalist hardliner that says, do the crime, do the time, motherfucker, and quit crying. Because that's what got me clean and changed my life, was spending most of it in prison and getting tired of it and going, this is what I need to do. Remove these things from my life, and I no longer go to where I don't want to be, which is being untrue to myself if I have to live somewhere I hate. And which perpetuates all that other crap, racism, violence, gang shit, fucking blah, blah, blah. You know, I chose to use, the resources are there. It's just a little tricky. You know, you need to have like people that help guide you into them. Right now, I'm living with someone who's from Burbank, who worked at Warner Brothers down there, who, you know, it's lame to say, she was like, grew up with Randy Rhoads, the guitar player, died. They were very, very close. You know, worked in various industries. You know, her old man was a circuit speaker, 44 years clean when he passed away, convict, well respected by the people that are in the program down there. And that person has helped me a lot. I know that it's tricky, like it's overwhelming to try and navigate through all those resources that they say are there. I think a lot of them are, man. But having the ability, you might have the desire, but the ability to navigate those things, man, I need special people to help me. It's like the mental health people get a little extra help. I noticed in Santa Cruz that they have caseworkers assigned to them, not parole officers, but like a caseworker who wants to guide them through, because, you know, and like when I was at Janus, a lot of like those people would come there to talk to us and like, you know, you know, I pursued them. Like for me, it's like making phone calls and following up on, you know, showing up to these appointments they give you and getting there, you know, it's hard to do sometimes. I had to do it by asking people for rides. I don't ride the fucking bus, you know, not that I can, I did the city a lot, but I just, you know, that took a lot of extra work for me that sometimes I'm not fucking prepared to do. I'd rather ride a bicycle. But, you know, I was able to get plugged into those fucking things because I finally just had enough of like scared straight from prison, dude. I just got sick and tired of going to prison, man. Which meant that I'm going to have to start picking up the fall. Like they give you these pamphlets with all these different numbers and it's community resources. And it's kind of hard to navigate those things without some help. And, you know, I getting involved, like, you know, I had a suicide attempt at Folsom and got involved in mental health, like, which allowed me like extra people to help me do things like fill out the freaking forums that my ADHD or my, you know, mental health goes, dude, are you kidding me? I don't want to get tracked by the government. I don't want them to know, you know, all that crap goes through our heads because we're fucking traumatized a little bit. Not for any other reason that I put myself into the trauma. I desired to be a part of the drama and the trauma for a long time. And so I'm fucked up, man. And like without some help, like I couldn't have done it, dude. I couldn't have been where I'm at right now without help from another alcoholic or addict. I really couldn't have done it, man. And without, you know, that's the premise of what my life's like change has been about. Is like other people like you, me and Jan, people that have helped me, like ease the fucking burden of like being overwhelmed with things like going down to SSI, going to this place, going to that place, handling legal shit from my fucking family's death, like all the crap, like I don't know how to do. Opening a bank account, dude, was hard for me. And I don't trust it. And you know, it's weird.
Yeah. So talking about having someone helping navigate that type of system kind of segues to the last thing that I wanted to ask you about, because we're living in a time where people are using phrases like defund the police to get people's attention, but really what that means is putting money into other areas. And another thing that comes up is the long list of things that we ask police to do, like find your dog, deal with a robbery, stop a shooter, go talk to that person who's talking to the street sign and blocking traffic, you know, all that. Yeah. And we're talking about prisoners working even as emergency workers, as firefighters, doing clerical work, doing all these things. What are a couple jobs you think that right now we ask police to do that you think that either present convicts, people in jail, could do, or people that got released would be good candidates for, that would do it better than police, or at least be able to zero in on one task, take something off the police's menu?
Definitely stuff like, you know, for me, like interfacing sometimes with mentally ill people, like I'm good at that, dude. I learned how to do that in prison. I learned how to do that on the streets. You know, I don't know, like communication for sure with people. They have this thing in Santa Cruz now in the probation department, but you have to be off paper to work for them. Where like guys like me, who if they're off parole or probation though, are like it's called the Community Resource Center. Okay, and then there's one by Drew Glover called the Alternative Santa Cruz Center for Nonviolence. Which guys that I know that are out of prison, my friends work for, and like Drew Glover helps run that. That's a really cool center where meetings and different activities and poetry stuff and blah 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 goes on, and it's all based around like community nonviolence and still how to be politically involved or to speak your mind or to protest without violence. That place in Santa Cruz is super cool. And Drew Glover runs that as a big part of that. And he's somewhere in our county government. I happen to like the guy. I see all kinds of shit that says bad things, and I don't care because I judge the man. I don't understand politics, but he's like a rad person to me. I support him. And then that resource center through our probation parole department at Santa Cruz, which is right off Water Street, has guys like me working in it, like not dressed like cops, hanging out, assisting guys who are, and women, men and women, who get out of jail, like, because they're not afraid of me. I'm afraid of interacting with you if you're a fucking probation officer in a way. I'm not going to be as honest. I'm not going to be as forthright. I'm going to think you're kind of trick me or send me to jail. But with someone like me, privately talking, it's a lot easier for me to sit down and go, hey, I don't know how to use a fucking computer, you know? Could you help me do a job search or fill out a resume, bro? Because naturally, Like, I already know who Shag is. Shag was a good dude. He was a stand-up guy in prison. I like him. He's changed his life. Like, I'm more comfortable to talk to someone like me rather than a probation guy. I don't want to let him know, hey, I've never been on a computer, or hey, I'm kind of not, you know, it's weird to say I don't have any job skills. You know, like, I'm a 6'4", 220-pound tough guy with tattoos. And I, you know, I don't want to come in here and trust you. Like, I know that works. I don't know as far as them out policing the fucking neighborhood or, you know, responding to domestic violence, because that's not going to be a good one for me. I'm not going to, but I can jump off the pier and save someone from drowning, you know, as an accomplished surfer, waterman. So my dad taught those classes and, you know, was a state lifeguard before, you know, blah, blah, blah. Like, I have that ability, would gladly like to respond if I had to help put out a fire. I know how to do CPR. I know all that kind of stuff. I'm actually really good in like the gnarly, it's the little things like filling out a bank account, like it gets scary. It's the riot that is happening that I'm good at navigating someone safely through and how to get through and not weird, not provoke. I can do all that stuff really good because I have that experience from prison, you know? You know, I like rising to the occasions in catastrophes. Guys like me are great for forest fires, are great for the tsunami. You know, we're really good at that kind of stuff. I just put my helmet on and grab my sword and I'm off. You know, I just need a cape. But I you know, it comes. So someone like me is able to help. Like in that resource center, someone like me go, hey, I don't trust talking to him, bro. Can I talk to you in this little booth and sit down and go, look, I've never had a job and they want me to have, what can I do? Like helping coach another guy to be comfortable on how to be honest with the situation, that I don't have to be scared of that probation dude, because if I'm not doing anything wrong, I'm not going to jail. Generally, that's a big discovery for me in my sobriety. And asking for help is okay. You know, sometimes I might have to start asking for help from someone like you and not President Trump, because he's not going to listen. But someone like you might be a little more conscious, and someone like me is a safer to approach on that type of subject. So there's a lot of little, and it'd be nice to get paid to do stuff like that. Like, I'd be excited to be a liaison that is a safe ride for guys that are getting out of prison. And I'm provided with a little vehicle and this little pay number, and I get to go pick the dude up, man, and be, hey, man, I'm Shag. I've done 30 years myself. Nice to have you. We're going to drive you down to this resource center right now. What do you need? We have this much money allotted for you to get some clean clothes and blah, blah, blah. And like, I think that stuff like that would be really good for me, because that's participating in my recovery, being of service, but it's also like, I have the ability to transgress the barriers that, you know, like I didn't like get my mom picking me up from prison or dad before, because it was like, dude, what are you, weird, you know? All I wanted to do was go smoke crack, you know? How do I tell my mom, hey, it's nice to see you, thanks for the shoes, can I have $100? You know, see you later. And I bounced out of the car in an intersection before, and my family's going, dude, where's he going? Is he coming back? You know? No. I was at the Torchlight Inn in a heartbeat and Beach Flats in Santa Cruz, you know, running amok. So, you know, so I'm sure there's all kinds of little positions like that, you know, you know, less pay than the EMT guy, but maybe you're on the fire truck, or maybe you're on the thing, and you're, you know, maybe the pay is that my rent is subsidized somehow, so that I can have an idea of how to live like a normal person and get a couch finally, while I'm doing this work that I learned how to do in prison. And part of it, I might not get paid as much as the professional doing it, but I might get some kind of subsidized living that helps me to fucking transition. I don't know. I've always been a guy who saved cats. When I'm constantly climbing trees to get a cat out of the tree. I've got 2 rescue rats I saved from my house manager's python that didn't eat them, so we early paroled them. Now they live in their own room by themselves, climbing around jackets and closets. And when they even poop in their cages, I leave them open. They go back in there, Boondle and Goondle, the rescue rats who got paroled early because They were $5 feeders. And I'm like, dude, they're in their cage for 2 months. Your snake's not eating them. Let's get them out of there, man. And I got them. And now they've lived here for 6 months. I can do that kind of stuff. That's, community service right there. A couple of feeder rats are living large in the room right next door, running amok in there. The cats can't get in there, and they fucking, I love it, dude. It's like I check on them every day. I get up in the morning, and I go check on Boondle and Goondle, and they're stoked to see me. I was the guy that gave them an early parole because I could.
That's rad.
I have a dog I rescued right now. That's code for stole from an abusive place. I rescued her. I took her, I climbed a fence to get her from a giant lot with nothing that someone just left her on, and she'd been whining and wouldn't even walk. And we're like, fuck, dude, man. She's beautiful. It's my dog, Shiloh. She's, I don't even know what she is, but all I know is that she loves me, and that I got to do that. And we've had her for 6 months, and I can't, I can't walk into a room without that dog following me. Sleeps with me in bed, just me and her, my own half of the house. And that dog's gonna have a life. And Boondle and Goondle are gonna live out their extended lives in that room, stoked. Every cat in this house, and it's not a cat woman's house, there's just 2. They're all rescues. Flacco the killer, who's gnarly, and animals have brought me great joy, dude. That's what I think every convict gets out of jail should be given an animal if they have somewhere to stay, so they can start learning how to love stuff again. Because, man, my dog brings me the greatest joy, and I get to have the dog experience finally. I get to have the dog experience. And the dog experience means that dog's not going to live as long. I'm personally like 160 in dog years myself, but that dog is only going to live, I get to go through its youth, love it, watch it get middle-aged and settle down, and then get old and pass away, man. And I get to have that life experience with an animal because, and that's my job right now, is being an animal owner, dude. I love that.
And I think that's gonna be where I'm gonna wrap it up, because partially you answered everything that I had curiosity about so well that, like, I don't, as an interviewer, other than just talking with you, I'm tapped out. But also my cat jumped up on the window and I let him in. That's when I stepped away from the screen for a second.
Yeah.
Because I'm home alone for 2 days, so I'm gonna go hang out with the cat for a little while myself. So
hey, dude, that's the best thing. I do it every day. It's the best thing we got going, man. The love, unconditional love from an animal, man. It's the best. No judgment, all love, and I get to learn a lot, and it brings me great joy. I appreciate the opportunity, my friend.
Yeah, thanks so much, man.
You have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you, man. Carry on.